So the women's soccer team will actually begin their Southern Conference play tonight down in Macon, Georgia, against the Mercer Bears.
Yep.
A team that's traditionally been strong in both men's and women's soccer down at Mercer. So that'll be an interesting test for this team, who's had some pretty good tests in the non-conference so far. So I'll be interested to see how they do. And obviously, soccer is traditionally a sport around here that Furman's had a lot of success in. And it's funny that we mentioned the women's soccer program, because Brian Lee, who kind of started the success at the women's soccer program, was honored in the Hall of Fame last week. And it was neat to hear kind of all the stories that were told about him during the Hall of Fame ceremony, which was held in downtown Greenville this past weekend.
Well, also this week we had some SoCon Players of the Week. Trey Hidden, he was able to get the offensive player, and then of course our kicker, and a huge 57-yard field goal, school record. What's your thoughts on them two?
Ian Williams is a great asset to this football team, especially with his ability now as a punter. I think a lot of people miss that, but like, he had a 59-yarder which set up, kind of pinned them back, Stetson back in their own end, and it led to a field goal, actually on Furman's next offensive possession, and then a 57-yard field goal, which is a school record. And there's been a lot of good kickers around here. As funny as going back to women's soccer again. I mean, Andrew Burr, the coach, is one of the best to ever do it as far as a kicking is concerned. But you think about the great kickers that Furman has had, and he now stands alone atop that list above, I think John Croft Hollingsworth, who had the 55-yarder back in 2015 on this day, I believe, to beat Central Florida.
Yeah.
So that's to have your name up there is pretty impressive, and also I think he's probably going to have a career, at least a shot, maybe at the next level, with his leg and his ability to do what he can do as a weapon, really, when you get across the 50 with his kind of leg. That kick from 57 would have been good from probably 65 yards.
Yeah, that's what we was talking about. He had plenty of leg on it.
And so Trey Hedden, going back to him, 20 at 27, just an incredible performance. I think 267 with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. I think the key to Furman this year will be, as much as anything, is how we know he's good, we know he's talented, is how much he progresses from game to game. And I think his confidence level is growing right now, and how much he's able to take care of the ball, because I think Furman's got some big play weapons in the passing game with the receivers, Joshua Harris and Colton Hinton. I think his arm, gives Furman something they haven't had in quite some time, and the ability to do some things offensively that they haven't had the ability to do in quite some time. So I'm looking forward and excited about that going forward.
And I also like the fact that Jones was able to get into the game, and people can say it was mop-up duty. It wasn't mop-up duty, but I mean, they was ahead, but he actually got to go in there when Stetson was playing. It's still first string defense, and had some great had a great run, had a great pass. I mean, he still showed that he is capable of being a starter at any time. So that's a good thing for Coach Clay to have.
I mean, Carson, we know he's been in some big situations and come out. You couldn't have scripted a tougher situation for him to go into last year than the one he went to at Chattanooga with the Southern Conference Championship at stake. And I think he showed incredible poise and talent, and just the ability to do a lot of different things that, like, the same with Hedden, strong arm, able to throw it kind of downfield. He's very accurate. And I think that, Furman has more, like you said, 2 starting quarterbacks than really a quarterback and then a backup. So I think it's just a situation to where, you've got a great luxury of, if Trey goes down, you can look to Carson, and you're not really going to skip a beat much offensively.
Now, this week we saw our wide receivers really break out, Joshua Harris and also Ben Ferguson. What was your thoughts on them?
Well, I think Ben Ferguson's had a really, really good year. He just going back even to the opener at Ole Miss. I thought, he had I think a catch or two in that game that were kind of down the field chunk plays. And then if you look at Charleston Southern, he continued. I think he had like a 64-yard or 67-yard catch in that game, 50-yard touchdown. So he's continuously been able to be kind of a downfield threat. And then Joshua Harris, I think, this was his breakout game of this season, and I think he's going to have a really big year. I think he's one of the best receivers in the Southern Conference, and I think he's, given the nature of how Furman's offense looks like it's going to be this year, he's going to put up probably the best numbers of his career, and I think that probably will get him maybe even a look at maybe some All-America teams at the end of the season. But he's just a weapon that I think Furman had last year, but and this is nothing against Tyler Hutt. I just think that maybe the downfield accuracy of the deep ball is a little bit different with both Trey Hidden and Carson Jones. I think they throw a little bit more accurate deep ball, but both have great arm strength and both can kind of, I'm sure they would say the same about having a receiver like Joshua Harris or Colton Hinton. To have that speed guy to be able to throw to is a luxury that they have as well.
Now, our defense, Khalid Williams and the group did a real good job this past game, was able to shut down Stetson a lot, and they got in some interceptions. What's your thoughts on the defensive performance so far this year?
Well, the defensive performance has been really good. I think the front seven is as good as, they didn't really, there's not been much of a drop-off in defensive line play, linebacking play. I think where the inexperience has been is in the secondary. And you've seen that. I think teams that try to take more downfield shots against Furman because they know it's hard. Furman's a very hard team to run the ball straight up against. And that's one of the things that's going to be interesting this weekend is William & Mary's had some success at doing that. But, there were times that even Ole Miss had trouble blocking, Furman's front seven. So that'll be something to watch this weekend because I think they have a very good offensive line and a very good running back. But Furman's front seven has been very good. I think the question going forward, is how much improved from game to game does the secondary get? And I think you started to see a lot of improvement last week. And if they can cut down the penalties a little bit, and kind of get their head around on some of those, easier said than done, right? At cornerback. Yeah. But I think they've got talent there. It's just a matter of getting experience. And I think from here forward, I think you'll see progressively them get better.
Now, your thoughts. Now, this is the one area that I think Furman's still trying to get everything fixed, and that's the offensive line. Now, they did look a little bit better against Stetson, but you can tell there's still things that need to be fixed because, the quarterback is getting hit a lot back there.
Yeah, I mean, there's some, that's just comes with a little bit of youth, and, I think some of the situations they're in, I think they've run the ball pretty well at times. I mean, the running play that Trey Hedden scored on, there was a huge hole on that side of the field that he was able to score on that 13-yard run. So it's been more of a inconsistency type issue with the offensive line rather than it has been when they there have been plays where it looks like last year, and then there have been other plays where the quarterback is getting hit a lot. But some of that, I think you can put some of that at the fault of the offensive line, but then some of that also as a young quarterback knowing when to get rid of it, and he's probably taken some hits too where he's held onto the ball too long. So I think that's a give and take, but I think the offensive line more so for me is going forward is how are they able to create running lanes for Mayan Hicks and Grant Robinson going forward? Are they able to, kind of provide enough there to be able to keep defenses from just pinning their ears back, so to speak, and coming after Trey with blitzes the whole game? So I don't think, if I know Clay Hendricks, he wants to be balanced on offense.
Yes.
And so that'll be determined on how they can run north to south more than anything else. And I thought one of the guys that was impressive late in the game Saturday was Gavin Hall.
Yeah, so I'm just about to ask you your thoughts on him.
Yeah, he's a guy that, I mean, and I know it's at a point in the game, but he knows how to get north to south really fast, and he just seems to have a unique understanding to be such a young player, of how to follow his blocks and hit the hole, just immediately without any indecisiveness, which is really impressive. And I'll be interested to see if he gets more playing time, this weekend as the season goes forward.
Now, your thoughts on William and Mary. This is a team that Furman hasn't played in a while. We saw them play Wofford last week. What's your thoughts on this particular team that Furman will be going up against this weekend?
They're very good. There's a lot of comparisons you can make between, the type of institution that William and Mary is, as well as the football program. It's steeped in tradition. One of, I believe, Danny Ford's longtime assistants and good friends, Jimmy Laycock, was the coach up there for a long time. And he kind of laid the foundation for what they're doing now. And Mike London is a guy that's a head coach now, and he's won a national championship at Richmond. He understands the academic side of it, and because he's been at really good academic schools. He was also at Virginia, and I believe was ACC Coach of the Year one year while he was there. So he's a very smart, very defensive-minded coach. They've always got good defenses. And William & Mary is a program that is I would say one of those handful of programs that is, in the conversation for best teams who have not won a national championship.
Yeah.
I think you can see that success, going back through the years. And, I was just looking back through their history the other day, and it's amazing how many one-touchdown games or 3-point losses they have to FBS teams. One year they lost a game to Maryland not too long ago. I believe it was 7-6. So they're competitive, and they're doing it at a high level. And this is a team that just 2 years ago won 11 games. And so I think it's a program that is year in, year out, people expect to be good in their conference, which is one of the better ones in the FCS and the CAA. So this season, I think they're different because they're a little bit more mature on offense. And last year it was sort of the maturity on defense that led them. So that's been their strength. They're going to give Furman its best test since it played Ole Miss in the opener.
Now, as we look at Furman, at the first year you can say, well, we're an inexperienced team. We got a lot of freshmen, a lot of redshirt freshmen. Now we're 3 games into the season. These guys have got some experience. Mm-hmm. Now, some of them already had some experience. They just never started. What's your thoughts going in with Furman as far as now we've kind of turned away from the non-experience? These guys have gotten in some playtime. We even played 4 deep on this past Saturday. So these guys are getting game time experience, not just out in practice.
Yeah, I think it's important. And you have the extra non-conference game in a 12-game schedule this year, that you have that extra game to kind of get experience, and then you go into conference play against Samford, who's a good program. But this will be like facing William & Mary this week will be like facing a Chattanooga on the road, or somebody that's a Mercer on the road. They'll be like facing a top tier Southern Conference team. So I think more than this week, maybe even than the game against Charleston, so you'll find out how much you've improved and where you are going into Southern Conference play. And I think that it's funny. Football is a game that you typically, more than any other sports, can see the improvement in a team from the start of the season to the finish. And I think with a young team like Furman's got, I think they've got a lot of talent, but they don't have a lot of games. So as many as you can get before going into that Southern Conference is vital. And I think Furman's gone out and tested itself pretty well. I mean, I think the Stetson game as a chance to build a little bit of confidence after the first two games. I think Charleston Southern was a game Furman, quite frankly, should have won. I mean, they turned the ball over 4 times, outgained Charleston Southern. That was a game that Furman lost more than Charleston Southern won. So that being the one disappointment, but you also gotta say that the youth had something to do with that loss, and as you get going forward more, you start to get that out of your system, and I think they started to clear that a little bit last week, and we'll do so even more this week.
All right, well, we can't go without talking about basketball. SoCon Media Day starts on October 1st, only a week or two away. So what's your thoughts on Furman going into this year on basketball?
I'm excited, sort of a little bit similar to football in the fact that there are a lot of unknowns. I mean, it's almost a completely different team, but I think a team that's going to shoot the ball incredibly well.
Yes.
I think getting guys, I think the one guy that's going to there's a couple guys, but coming in, I think true freshman Mason Smith's a really good shooter. I think fans are going to enjoy seeing him play. And I also think Edrin Brunson, from what he brings to the table as on both ends of the floor, I think defensively is one of the things that Furman sort of lacked last year at the guard position a little bit. I think he's going to give them a great on-ball defender. I think that they'll be a better defensive team this year. I think Cooper Bowser's progression from year 1 to year 2 will be something to watch. We also all saw what Jalen Slauson did from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, how much improved he was. So you expect the same type of improvement for Cooper Bowser, who, if you talk to a lot of people, he has that kind of NBA potential with his size, his skill level, and his ability to his athleticism to be a defender around the rim. So there's a lot to be excited about for this team coming up this season. And, you look at the returning guys like Garrett Heen. I mean, he's got something to prove, I think, in his senior year.
Yeah.
And I think, other guys, Tyrese Huey is another one. Ben Vanderwall. These guys, they were a part of that championship success a couple of years ago. And I think there's still sort of a chip on their shoulder to kind of show that, hey, we may have lost guys like JP, Marcus, obviously Jalen and Mike Bothwell, but these guys were as much a part of that success as those guys were.
Yes,
and there's going to be they'll have a feeling, sort of, if I'm reading this right, it's something to prove themselves that, just because we lost those guys, we still got some championship pedigree here, and we're going to be title contenders, from here going forward. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think the SoCon is, in general, I think, a lot of people are going to pick East Tennessee State. Some are going to pick Chattanooga. I mean, I've seen some pick Samford. You really don't know how to project it going forward with NIL and the transfer portal, and how talent is going to equate. They might have been talented in one place. Are they going to be talented here? Are they going to play together as a team? So it's going to be fun, though. I'm looking forward to it, and I think Furman has the best coach in the league. I think they have that luxury, and I think going forward, I think that'll benefit you in close games more than anything else. So,
and also we want to talk about the women's team. Coach Pierre Kerr's going into his second year now. I think with Tate Walters and Sydney coming back, and I think they're going to be very competitive this year. I think they did very well considering that the changes that had to be made was so quick. They really didn't have a chance to recruit the players that, under Curtis's kind of style of playing ball. And I think that they're going to be a team to be reckoned with in the SoCon this year.
Yeah, and I think they surprised some people with how competitive they really were last year. And I think that, that was more of what we talk about, inexperience and not really a talent issue. I think there's a very good shooting team.
Yeah.
And they've got some, girls that really could be sort of breakout scorers, even more so maybe right now than the men do. But I'm anxious to see what they do in his second year at the helm. I know, Chattanooga is always going to be pretty good. Mercer.
Yeah.
So they're, but you know, Furman's been right there knocking at the door the last 3 or 4 years. So, you know, they've been able to sustain some success too. And I think in year 2, I think you'll see a lot of progression, and you know, perhaps be able to knock on the door of maybe that top 4 in the SoCon pecking order.
And also, we want to talk real quick about the women's tennis team. I was able to see them last week. They had the big tournament that was here. The Deborah, I forgot her name. Deborah Southern.
Debbie Southern.
Yeah, Deborah Southern.
She's like the probably the dean of coaches in women's tennis and probably the SoCon. I mean, she's probably she might be the most successful coach here. Or you know, I mean, I think she may have won more SoCon championships than any other coach. I'm not positive on that, but
yeah. She had a very successful career here at Furman, and Furman was actually the only FCS team that was in this tournament. We had Alabama, Texas Tech, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Clemson, NC State. There was just a lot of colleges here, and Furman had not 4, but I think 5 upset wins in this particular tournament, which is really good considering the talent that they was facing as some of the top talent in the nation. NC State's got 3 players that were in the top 10 last year, and one of them that's playing in the U.S. Open right now. So you know, you're going against some great talent. It gives the coaches something in the fall to look at before spring comes. And every coach that I spoke to, I talked to a lot of the coaches from the other teams. They said that the facilities here at Furman was just awesome, the way they run the tournament. So kudos to Julie and her team for what they do here for the women's tennis program. Also, congratulations to track and field. They won some SoCon awards this week. And we just want to thank all of the sports here at Furman for what you do for the university. And all the SIDs do a great job. Hunter, Jordan, Wesley, Julie. If I missed one, I'm sorry. But they have done a great job here at Furman, making sure that Furman sports is the best and in every sport. So we just want to give them a big shout out. I also want to thank Hunter for allowing us for this great view each and every week for our Furman Joust podcast. I want to thank SoCon John for coming on, giving us his knowledge. It's always great to have him here. This has been the Furman Joust podcast, brought to you by Ardensburg and Grill, Central South Carolina, Upstate Physical Therapy in Anderson, South Carolina, Pepsi Cola, Point RV at Hartwell Lake, and thank you to all of our other sponsors. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks.